Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Rooms webinar for 2025. We're excited that Zoom is working today and we're able to present this session. You've all seen this slide deck, but we're going to go through this really quick. And if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat, raise your hand, or let us know that you've got questions, but we'll have time at the end for questions as well. So Rooms is designed to renovate and improve upper floors of commercial buildings in your downtowns to create new residential housing opportunities. And we'll talk more about this in detail, but those are permanent, long-term residential opportunities and not Airbnbs and short-term rentals. I want to go over the Rooms 1.0 numbers, the 2024 numbers. These were really strong numbers. We had 20 applications from 12 designated communities. The total funding request was $970,000. Private reinvestment in all of those projects was over $13 million, and that would have created 72 units. We had $400,000 available, 50 grants awarded, creating 34 total housing units with a private reinvestment of almost $6 million. So those were strong numbers from 2024, and we hope to and expect to see similar numbers this year with this round. This year we have 270,000 available. We're looking forward to getting that out soon. So this grant, as you know, is only available to designated Kansas Main Street communities. The application needs to come from the Main Street organization on behalf of the downtown property owner or property owners. And the application portal is live. I know some of you have seen it and are working through it, very similar to the Rooms application last year, very similar to HEAL. And in fact, we're working in Commerce. We're all going through training now. There are a set of standard operating procedures that pretty much will follow for all grants moving forward. So you'll see a lot of consistencies in grants like HEAL and Rooms, signs. All those grants will have a consistent pattern to them. So there's a maximum of $50,000 that can be awarded per project. A one-to-one minimum cash match is required by the building owner. This could be a loan or any other sources, and it can also include a HEAL grant or other grants. The project must be within the district of your downtown. The project must be within the downtown district. If you have questions about the location of the building, if you feel like it's on the edge of your downtown, please reach out to us as soon as possible, and we'll talk through that and help guide you in that question. You can and are encouraged to submit multiple projects for consideration. Unfortunately, only one project per community will be awarded, but if you have multiple projects, please submit those because it shows the need for this program. And that's one of the things that we were able to show in 2024 numbers. And we expect to be able to show the need again is way beyond the funds that we have available. And then the projects need to meet Kansas Main Street design standards or your local design standards if you have those in place. Again, I mentioned one project per community per grant period. If you did apply and receive a grant last year, you are eligible again this year. That's a little bit different than some of the other grant programs, but you're all eligible to receive an award again this year. So if you have a Rooms grant, please apply again. I mentioned earlier that projects are for long-term housing, no short-term rentals such as Airbnb. And short-term rentals is pretty much defined as an Airbnb or, single nights or a week at a time. If you have a situation that somebody wants to develop housing for 6 to 9 month rentals or maybe a year to year, let us know about that ahead of time so we understand kind of what the situation is. But this is really designed to create long-term housing in your community and your downtown. And I also mentioned earlier that the Rooms grants can be stacked with HEAL, with CDBG funds, with other sources. Apartments on the first floor storefronts are not eligible. If you have a project that's on a ground level or first floor that's not on a storefront, reach out to us ASAP and discuss that with us so we can talk you through that and make sure and understand if it's going to be an appropriate project or not. So eligible use of funds. Projects must be for the upper floor development in a privately owned building within your designated downtown. Need to follow Main Street guidelines. and work must not have already begun except for cleaning out the building in preparation for construction. So if you've already cleaned out the building and are ready to get started, that's acceptable, but you can't have started construction already on the project. Now, if the building is big enough and it has multiple housing units in the building and you've already done a couple of apartments in part of the building, but nothing has started on the other parts of the building, that would be an eligible use. Again, just give us a heads up on that so we know when the applications come in what we're dealing with. So ineligible use of funds, public improvements or any publicly owned property, projects that have already started or are completed or near completion, projects that do not meet the one-to-one match. So there needs to be at least the $50,000 match in place. Licensing, insurance, taxes, and other costs of doing business, those expenses are not eligible. Projects outside of the downtown commercial district are not eligible, and projects that do not meet code or design standards are not eligible. This is probably an important note to make here, is that make sure that the project is going to fit within the codes in your community. And that includes fire suppression, especially. It's really important that you make sure the project is going to meet code if you're awarded funds. So the grant recipient or the property owner will be responsible for obtaining the required permits. Commerce reserves the right to cancel the grant agreement in the event of a failure to comply with the terms of the grant or if unauthorized changes are made. So if you receive a grant and there are changes that need to be made in the project, please let us know ASAP. The grant recipient and local Main Street program must give access to any records, documents, or other information regarding or related to the execution or performance of the project. We are subject to KORA, the Kansas Open Records Act, and so that information needs to be available, and the project must be thoroughly documented with photos or video when appropriate throughout the entire timeline of the project. So here's the schedule for rooms. The grant applications went live April 1st. This slide was from the April 16th webinar when we had originally scheduled that. May 19th is the deadline for applications. We'll review the applications and have that review completed by May 23rd. The projects will be announced no later than June 6th, with the first disbursement of funds happening June 16th. Again, we have to get this money out before the end of this fiscal year, which ends the last of June. September 1st is the date that projects must begin construction. July 1 of 2027 is when the apartments must be completed, and they need to be occupied by the end of September of 2027. If there are any issues with starting the project by May 1st, let us know as soon as possible. We want to be flexible and try and meet you where you are. The best thing that you can do is communicate with us if you're awarded a project and let us know how the project is going, what's happening. Don't be afraid to call us if there are problems on your end or the property owner's end of things. We'll help work you through those things. But the worst thing you can do is just ghost on us and not communicate with us through this process. So the scoring criteria, but basically the projects need to create long-term housing. We want to understand the magnitude of the project need. The size of the private match is important. If it's more than 50,000, that's a good thing. And we all know that most of these projects are, you're really not going to touch an upper floor housing project for the 50,000 of a rooms grant and a 50,000 match. 100,000 generally doesn't cut it. Pro forma budget and overall plan for the project. We actually pulled the pro forma from the application link because there were some folks that were having issues with that. We may add that in future grant rounds, but that's been pulled from the application now. And if you're having trouble accessing the budget or the other documents in the application link, just reach out to us and we'll email them to you. Does your project address a local transformational strategy? And then the number of apartments are created. So those are the scoring criteria, pretty much identical to the last round. So it should be something that you're familiar with. I see one question from Kylie in the chat. Will the first disbursement of funds be on a specific percentage of the award? Yes, the disbursements come in two amounts, 50% each time. So the first disbursement will be 50%, $25,000, or if you had a $40,000 grant or less, it would be half. The remaining half is dispersed when the project is approximately 50% complete. We've had people in other grant programs, and I think some of you may have asked us, how do we determine 50%? We just work with you again, and we'll make an on-site visit. We're in your communities enough that generally we kind of know where you're at with the projects. So there's some flexibility in what 50% is. Sarah asked, can the funds be used for a property that was previously upper floor housing, but due to property conditions has not been usable for a number of years? Property has a new owner. That would be a yes. If it's just been a couple of years, I'm going to guess that's not the case. Give us a call, Sarah, and we can talk you through that and discuss that. But generally, there are a lot of spaces in our downtowns that used to be used for housing, and those are really the ideal projects because they've already been used for housing in the past. It might have been 50 or 60 years ago. That's the kind of project that we want you to take advantage of. Bev asked, can the project start before September 1st? Yes. If you're awarded the grant, once you've had the award, you can start the project. Great question.
I'll add to that. The one thing is we do need to make a site visit usually before you start construction. So that would be kind of the determining thing for the earliest you could start.
Excellent point. Hopefully this is all familiar enough to most of you that there's not really anything new or unexpected. And again, we're looking forward to the applications. Reach out if you have any questions or need help with any part of this. We want you to be successful. We want to get this money out ASAP. Other questions, comments? Robert, Debbie, Hannah, you guys have anything to add that I may have missed?
Scott, I will just emphasize what you said about talking to your code official early in the process. Make sure they're on board with what your plan is and you know their position on whether it's going to have to be sprinkled with fire suppression. Just get that information ASAP, so we know the reality of what the cost implications of any code adjustments will be.
Excellent point. Other questions, comments? All right. Well, good luck, everybody. Reach out if you have questions or need anything. We're here to help, and we're looking forward to seeing your applications and creating more housing in your downtown. So with that, we'll see you soon. Take care. Have a good afternoon.